I'm Brother Jim Waymeyer. I'm the acting as the field director for World Missions Bearing Precious Seed out of the Maranatha Baptist Church in St. Robert, Missouri. I'm down here at the Trinity Hill Baptist Church in Norcross, Georgia, where we have a warehouse that's provided by the church here, and this is our southeast staging point where we ship out many scriptures. As we did this past Friday, we sent out a container of Tamil to India, and that's on the container now. It's on its way to India. 668 boxes of John and Romans going out to those people who have never seen, held, or heard the Word of God. Psalm 126 and verses 5 and 6 say that they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth with weeping, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. You know, bearing precious seed, question asked many times, what is bearing precious seed? Well, is it a mission board? Is it a church? Or what is it? It's a concept. It's a concept that God gives us from the Word of God. And bearing precious seed is a labor of love. God has raised up those who have given themselves to put the scriptures together and to send them throughout the world. A man by the name of Don Fraser began the Bearing Precious Seed ministry as we know it down in Texas, and he would ship the John and Romans over into Mexico, where it was received by Brother Carlos, a man who's a pastor there. And then other men began to get the burden, and they began to go back to their churches, their local churches, and start a Bearing Precious Seed ministry. A man by the name of William Byers came out of South Dakota and got the burden, and he started World Missions Bearing Precious Seed, which is now directed by Brother Samuel Martin. We're happy that we can be able to get the gospel out in this fashion. There's enough gospel in the book of John to save the world, and there's enough doctrine in the book of Romans to disciple the whole world. Every person that gets saved can be discipled by the Word of God. We do want them to have a Bible, but we can get a gospel of John and Romans out so much cheaper, and we'll get people saved. Then we'll try to get a Bible in their hand. As I point to the board here, you'll see that each roll of paper costs about $510, and that will produce about 11,000 Gospels of John and Romans. You'll notice here on the board that it costs anywhere from 12 to 14 cents depending upon the size of the booklet, the size of the print. Different languages require different printing. And we can get the paper, we can pay the printer, we can ship it to them, and it can go into the hands of the missionary and the national pastor for that price. So it's very inexpensive to do that. Now the Bible tells us that we're to buy the truth and sell it not. And so we don't charge for anything that we do. We have many churches who help us. Some of them give the money. Some of them have what we call the hands-on ministry, and they're involved in the collating and the stapling and cutting and trimming of the booklets, and then packing them into boxes to send out on to different places on the mission fields. We're glad that we can have that opportunity to send the Word of God. God gave the keeping of the Word of God, the preservation of the Word of God, to Israel in the Old Testament. The scribes copied it and made sure it was right, and they preserved, God used them to preserve the Word of God. In the New Testament, God gives that to the church. The churches are the pillar and ground of the truth, the Bible tells us. And yet the churches have failed. They gave it back to the world and said, you print it and sell it back to us. And consequently, we now have many perversions of the Word of God, inaccurate. For instance, the NIV Bible, so-called Bible, has over 63,000 omissions. It's no wonder that there's so much confusion today about the Bible, because there's so many untrue versions out there. We work only with the King James 1611, and we're happy that we still have the preserved Word of God to send out to the whole world. Now we have to have it translated, and we get it translated where it is comparable to the King James 1611, and that's what we print, that's what we send out. And I'm thankful tonight for Trinity Hill Baptist Church and all the other churches who work with us here in the Atlanta area to get the gospel out to the ends of the earth.